Hello, everybody. What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Best Self Weekly podcast. Once again, we got a special guest here again, Stevie. What's going on? How you doing today?
Doing so good. Thank you for having me on.
Of course, Stevie, that first episode that you were on maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I don't even know. It was amazing. We talked a lot about like all areas of life pretty much. And then
Yeah,
I feel like as we got going in the episode, we clicked on the ice baths. And
yeah.
obviously, we need to freaking do another separate episode just about ice baths and whatever comes up. So let's talk about ice baths. How often do you do ice
Okay.
baths? Why do you do ice baths? Let's get right into it. I love ice baths. Love hate relationship, of course.
Yes, 100%. I love to hate it, and it's so good. So, jumping right in, like you said, the first thing that I want to say is I am not a scientist. I am not a doctor. I don't know all the nitty-gritty details of this. I've read a lot of articles. I've I've listened to a lot of podcasts on it. And so like that's just a little disclaimer here. I don't know everything. I just read what I liked and I just kind of ran with it.
Yeah.
But I originally started doing ice baths like a year ago. My husband and I did for mental health reasons. We both have like seasonal anxiety and depression, and it really starts affecting us about November because where we live in central Utah, it starts to get really, really cold. It starts to snow, and that just like brings this seasonal anxiety and depression on. So we looked into ice baths. We heard about it. We heard about the Wim Hof guy. And my husband was like, Stevie, we really need to do this. And I'm like, dude, I'm cold all the time. I'm not going to do ice baths. Like, you're crazy. And so, to be kind of petty, I researched the heck out of it because I was like, I'm going to find the one thing to be like, oh no, that's why I'm not doing ice baths because of this one thing. But I really couldn't find anything justifiable other than it's just cold and it just sucks. So I was like, okay, like there's so many pros to this that I'll try it with you. And so we started looking online and we found, I think the company is called New Recover. It's NU and then Recover. And they had a pre-Black Friday sale going on where they were selling their pop-up sauna for $300. And if you bought that, they gave you an ice pod for free. And I was like, done, let's do it. So we did. And we set it up in our garage. And so what we did last year is we would start out in the sauna and then we'd get into the ice bath and we actually would do like
Ooh,
just different temperature therapy.
that's nice. That's
Yeah, it worked out really, really well, except the biggest con is that the ice pod only fits one person. So you had to wait for the other person to finish. And the whole entire time you're sitting there thinking like this is gonna suck, this is gonna be so cold, this is gonna be so hard. And you're just telling yourself all these like self-limiting beliefs, making it even harder to do the ice bath. So this year we decided we're not gonna do that anymore. We ended up throwing it away. I think it got popped this summer, so we threw it away and we went to like Tractor Supply and we bought a horse trough. And so, like a horse water trough. And so we both can fit in it. And so now this year we do it, we set the timer, we jump in and we do it for the minute and 30 seconds every day. And then we jump out and we're good to go.
that's so cool. So let me ask you this. With your ice bath, do you check the temperature or no? Like, do you have a
We
temp?
did last year, but we haven't this year just because like
Just
we
kind
don't really care.
of care, yeah.
Yeah, but also, like I said, we live in central Utah and it's the middle of winter, and I can't tell you how many times that there's been ice on top of it.
Right.
Sometimes it's a really thin layer, sometimes it's like an inch thick layer, and we have to like break through the ice. So
Right.
it's cold, it's definitely freezing.
Yeah, so obviously in the summer and like probably, in the fall that night it gets cold, you're good. You don't even need a water chiller. But when it gets warmer, what do you do? Do you guys have a water chiller too, or you haven't tried it with the horse thing yet? Or
Yeah, we haven't tried it with the water trough yet, but my husband wants to just like buy bags of ice and put it in there and just try that. My concern is I don't know if it's gonna be cold enough because and like we can talk about this, but when the temperature when you start to see the positive effects is around 55 degrees for women and about 50 degrees and colder for men. And so we should get a thermometer, a water thermometer, and just make sure that it is cold enough before we get in there.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
we haven't tried it during the summer yet with our horse trough.
for sure. I mean, just going off of that, like stat or, fact you just said, I've done a decent amount of research on ice baths. I'm not a scientist for sure, or whatever, or a doctor, but everything I've ever read has been 60 degrees and lower to
Yeah.
be for benefit to the ice bath. So 60 degrees and lower, and even honestly, even 60 degrees is pretty cold. Ain't gonna lie. Like it's
Oh
still
yeah, for
like
sure.
I was kind of shocked. I didn't really know. I was like, okay, the coldest or the warmest setting on the ice bath chiller for me is like 60 degrees. I was like, there's no way. But then I was like, oh my gosh, even that's still pretty cold. But
Yeah.
okay, the reason why I started to do ice baths was actually just because of running. Like I still have some running injuries, but I noticed as I did the running or did the ice baths, they, reduce my inflammation. It would be good enough for me to run. So reducing inflammation and just like, I guess helping your injuries or soreness, like it truly does take it away. So that was the
Yeah.
whole reason why I started because I actually had this chiropractor in Utah in Payson, Dr. King, and he's awesome. But anyway, he told me, he's like, there's been new studies out that if you do ice baths right before bed, that reduces the inflammation the most. But then again, there's other studies out there. Like a man had really low testosterone, he had all these problems, and apparently, if you're the like a man or a male, like you get in the ice bath the first thing in the morning, with this study that he did consistently for months, his testosterone went through the roof, gained a bunch of muscle, and he healed himself of like all these different diseases. But it was specifically doing it right before you work out. But then there's the third thing, like if you do the ice bath right after your workout, that could that will affect your muscle gain. But then again, it's good for like muscle recovery to help you like not be as sore so quickly. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, are there any ones you prefer to do and why? Or are you mainly just like time convenient because you're so busy?
Mine is mostly out of convenience just because I'm busy. Um, but we do notice a huge thing that when we ice bath, like say an hour before we go to sleep, we fall asleep quicker, we stay asleep longer, we sleep better, we wake up more rested. And so sometimes my husband will be like, "Oh, well, like you can do yours in the afternoon, but I'm going to do mine right before bed." And I'm like, "That works because I just want to get it done and over with." But he really wants like the effects of the sleep and it just works out. So just like where we are with this season of life that we're in right now, we're not really picky. We're mostly doing it right now, like right now, we're mostly doing it because of like mental fortitude to like do that stress in a controlled setting and like be able to handle the stress in a controlled setting to help us be able to handle stress in uncontrolled settings throughout our life, throughout our day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like so symbolic. It just transfers to all other areas of your life in terms of dealing with
Mm-hmm.
like the mental benefits are just unreal. I mean, if you can just sit in there for those 3 to 5 minutes, like depending on the temperature, um, you'll notice you'll be more less stressed. You'll be just more chill. Like that's what I've noticed, and it's honestly affected me spiritually. It's made me more of a spiritual person and increased my faith. Like because I've still got
Yeah.
to put in work in the other areas, but like it's so cool. It's so symbolic. Um, Ice baths are literally a life hack. Like for real.
Yes.
And I agree with you because I mean, I want to talk about saunas too, and then we can come back more about
Yes.
podcasts, but do you still sauna frequently?
No, not frequently. Recently, from recent stuff that I've seen from Dr. Stacy Sims, she's an amazing, like, leading female scientist out of Australia, or maybe it's New Zealand.
Yeah.
But she shares a lot of stuff about women's health specifically, like specific to sports and athletics. And she said recently that women should actually not do ice baths, especially colder than 55 degrees. And women should actually be focusing on saunas, especially if they're like closer to menopause or postmenopausal, just because of the way that it can affect our like our cortisol levels and our stress hormones. But we do sauna pretty religiously when we're sick. We just focus on sweating out that sickness, getting it out of our body, and that's mostly when we sauna actually anymore is like when we're sick. So,
Yeah.
but the thing about doing ice baths is it can boost your immune system. It can boost your immunity. So we don't get sick as often. The thing that's funny is the day that we did our last interview together, I actually got so sick that night. And I got like, I don't know if it was COVID or it was just like this weird virus that was going around, but I had like body aches, fevers, chills, like the whole bit right after we hung up. So we were in the sauna the whole entire time, like that week that I was sick.
Crazy. After I actually got very sick too. Right after that, I went to California and it was that weird fog thing, and I've been sick ever since.
Yes,
Yesterday I
yes.
Hey, yesterday was the first day I felt decent. Today I woke up still not feeling as good as yesterday, but I'm still fighting it. Like I have to like drink some freaking Dayquil every day, and like I'm still fighting.
Dude, yes.
And
I
I
drank so much Dayquil and so much NyQuil. And then also I'm a pretty holistic person. So I make this thing called fire cider and it's got like garlic and ginger and turmeric and onions and you just let it ferment on your shelf. You also put apple cider vinegar in it and you take that and it's supposed to like boost your immune system. And so I was taking that on top of the Dayquil and the NyQuil. I was throwing everything I could at this sickness and it still kicked my butt. It was miserable.
Same, same. And like there's been a few days where I've skipped going to the gym for sure. And I
Oh
like to
yeah.
go to the gym like every day, even if it's just like, I don't know, I do just stretching some days. Like, I don't know. And like if like that's how you know I don't feel good if I don't even really get out of the house. And I'm still fighting.
Yeah.
And it's been almost 3 weeks and slowly I'm getting better, but I've never saunaed so much in my life. So I usually sauna. But like I've just been chilling in there. Like I Sunday morning before church, I went in there for like 45 minutes
Oh my
and
goodness.
like it wasn't that hot though. It was just
Oh,
180. But anyway, I went
that's not
yeah, the mental benefits of doing the sauna are also like amazing. They say you should do the sauna earlier in the day, no, later at night because it makes you tired and it helps you sleep better.
yeah.
I do it in the
Yeah.
but
So I was actually looking into that because this lady that I hadn't heard of before. So when it comes to ice baths and things like that and like cold water immersion, I feel like Wim Hof is the most popular one that everybody knows, like his breathing method. Everybody knows him as the Iceman. He's been doing it for decades. So I feel like a lot of people know about him. And then Andrew Huberman, he's made it really, really popular as well. Joe Rogan has talked about it a lot. But I found so Dr. Stacey Sims, I mentioned her, she talks a little bit about it with Andrew Huberman on his podcast. And then I found out like this week about this lady. She's a doctor. Her name's Susanna Soberg. And she talks about how if you mix doing sauna 2 to 3 days a week for 57 minutes total, so that's not like one session at once, but 57 minutes per week, and then you combine that with 11 minutes per week of cold water immersion, you're supposed to be seeing like tons of really, really good benefits. Some of the immediate benefits that she mentions is that your dopamine increases 2.5 times. And that's within the first couple minutes of doing these, and then it lasts for hours. And I've 100% noticed that difference. I share my ice bath videos to my social media, and I always talk about like, hey, right now the mindset that I'm in, I don't want to do it. I know it's going to suck. I know it's going to be cold, but then I jump in it. And then I get on my Instagram afterwards and I say, I feel amazing right now. I do this every single time. I always talk about how good I feel afterwards. And it's such a mood booster. Another thing that it does is it increases your focus, it increases your energy, it increases your mood. But Susanna Soberg says that if you do this with sauna as well, it's supposed to like double the benefits. But she says to do like ice bath one day, sauna the next day, ice bath, and then sauna, and just kind of mix it up. That way, you're getting 2 to 3 days of cold water immersion and then 2 to 3 days of sauna.
right. That's those numbers are very similar because to prepare for this, I listened to Andrew Huberman talking about the sauna and ice bath benefits, and he said pretty much the same thing. The sauna typically should be around like 40-ish minutes a week, and then the ice bath should be less than that, maybe like you said, like those 12 to 20, 12 to 15 minutes a week. And do you want to hear something crazy? So I
Yes.
was in the sauna yesterday, and I see this lady in there, and I've talked to her a few times. She's like this really sweet, nice old lady. She's 89 years old, but she has the clearest skin ever, and she looks like she's like 50, like 40, like 50.
Wow.
I always pick her brain. I'm like, how are you like so healthy? Like, how long have you been saunaing for? Because everybody knows if you're in the sauna and you talk, it goes by like double quicker.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Anyway, so she's like, since I've been 38 years old, mind you, she's 89 right now. She's like, since I've been 38 years old, I do this 3 times a week, 15-minute sessions and like 180 degrees. And I've been doing that since I've been 38 years old. And dude, she is so healthy. Like, yeah, there's other factors like how she eats. She eats a bunch of vegetables, but still, it just goes to show that there's a lot of other benefits like helping you live longer to sauna. And saunaing and I've looked them up as well. So that's another benefit. And I'm like, dang, that must work. Like, I need a sauna 3 times a week, trying to hit the, what is it, 30-ish minutes, right? Is that the number you said?
So, I actually don't know as much about saunaing as much as I do about ice baths, but what Susanna Soberg says is it's 57 minutes, like total per week. So I don't know what that would like roughly break down to, but I know for ice baths to hit the minimum number of 11 minutes per week, you only have to do it for like a minute and a half at a time. So a
Mm,
sauna would be like, what, 10 minutes a day at least?
yeah, if you do that like every day or break it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of heart health benefits too of doing the sauna. Obviously, it gets a lot of toxins out too. But
Yes.
yeah, in terms of ice bath, like it just builds mental strength like nothing else though. Because yeah, it can be hard to sit in a sauna for a long time, but at the end of the day, it's like it's not that hard in my opinion, is if you have water. But the hard thing is getting in the cold water. That's hard.
Yes. Like you said, in the sauna, it because you can sit in there for so much longer, it does make it better to have a friend with you or, a stranger in there that you can just kind of chat with.
Yeah.
But for me, when I do ice baths, I cannot have anybody talk to me. My kids are so dang sweet and they love to come out and like support me and my husband when we do the ice baths together and like, you can do this, mom, you got this. And I'm just like, please, please don't talk to me because I have to really turn inward for like 30, 45 seconds
Yeah.
to like get me okay with being in the cold water and then I'm good to go. So like half the time I'm in there. My husband on the other hand, he's like a chatty Cathy and he has to just sit there and chat 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 to like work through his cold stuff and I'm just like I can't talk to you right now. I got to be focused.
Right. Yeah, that's funny because that's how my wife is. She's really happy and we did a thing where she would jump in right after me for a while, but she has to get ready for work a little bit earlier. But that was cool, but she'd always like, talk to me, try to like just be sweet and like normal and talk to me. I'm like, I can't talk. Like I have to either put on my headphones and listen to the Rocky theme song,
Yes.
David Goggins type of stuff. Like that's my biggest hack. When I really don't want to do it, I try to turn on David Goggins or Rocky, just inspirational stuff or like, I don't know, intense rap. Like those are some hacks.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. So I try to be very, very mindful of what I listen to. I like if I'm listening to rap, it's got to be like Christian rap. It's got to be like uh I can't even think of any artists right now. But there was one guy, he's like a pastor of some big mega church. His name is Stephen Furtick, Furtick. And I would listen to his stuff because his stuff is like motivational speeches with like an instrumental like hip hop background and I was like okay I can do this because he talks about that in his song. He's like you can do this, you can fight, you can be better, you can be stronger and I'm like sitting there hyping myself up in the ice bath and this sounds so cringe I know but like it's what helps get me through that minute and a half and I'm like yes but I like it because he is a pastor and he does bring God into it. And that scripture, like, I can do all things through God who gives me strength. And I even have, so there's another scripture, it says, it's Samuel 22:33, and it says, God is my strength and my power. And I have that on my weightlifting belt for the gym. And so I'm like, yes, I can do this. Like, God's got me. I can do this. I can pray to him for the minute 30, and it just works for me.
That's so cool. So you try to hit a minute 30 when you typically.
Yes, so that's what I made a commitment to myself when I started my SIPS challenge, like we talked about last time. I committed to myself that I would do a minute and 30 seconds every single day, either in our ice pod or we travel a lot. And if we're staying somewhere else, it would be a cold shower.
Nice. That's really cool.
So
And
yeah.
I mean, what are some of the benefits that you've experienced by keeping that promise to yourself?
The biggest thing that I've noticed is a huge ability, like a much, much bigger ability to be able to handle everyday stress. And my husband calls it embracing the suck. So if I can embrace the suck of cold water for a minute and 30 seconds, I can do anything. And I've seen a big difference, like going into the gym as well. Like if I'm really struggling with an exercise, I can be like, okay, if I can sit in freezing cold water for a minute and 30 seconds, I can push through and do these 3 sets of Bulgarian split squats or whatever exercise I'm struggling with at the time. I'm like, I can do this. I can do hard things. Like, this is really good. Another thing that's good about it is just proving to myself that I can do hard things for the sake of doing hard things. I feel like as Americans, we get so comfortable in our first world lives that we don't really know
Mm,
like the trigger word is like primal stress because we're like all of our needs are met. So that's why so many of us have anxiety. That's why so many of us have depression because we're not out there like getting the sunlight and hunting for our food and gathering for our food. We just have everything. It's convenient. It's at our fingertips. And so I think that's another thing is it's helping me with like my mental fortitude. It's helping me with my depression and anxiety. I actually, this is a very, very personal thing, and I'm not suggesting people just like do this, but I have not had to go on depression or anxiety medication this winter for the first winter in 5 years since my second child was born. And I do attribute that to ice baths and therapy, which I'm doing both of those right now. So those are some of the benefits. Another thing is, like I mentioned, I'm cold literally all the time. Like I have like 15% body fat just naturally. I am so cold all the time, all the time. In the summer in Utah, I can be wearing long pants and long sleeves, and I'm comfortable in that.
mm.
But what I noticed this winter specifically is the cold weather does not bother me as much as it used to. And that's one of the like benefits of it is that you're able to handle colder weather. So I'm like obviously I'm still affected by the cold, but I'm not like freezing my butt off like I normally would be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's interesting that you've kind of adapted to it and just built more mental toughness.
Yeah.
It's like if you can do the ice bath, then I can stand in the I don't know, I can like run my errands when it's cold outside and not be affected as much, like just walk.
Yes.
And one more thing I wanted to say is we have this really nice cleaning lady. Shout out to Teresa. And it was like the time we did our last episode, and we went to California for 2 days. So I didn't have an ice bath. And then she came, as soon as we got back, like that following Monday. And I was like, oh yeah, I got a little sick. Oh, she's like, well, it's because those ice baths you do all the time. And I was like, Teresa, with all due respect, the time that I got sick were the only 2 days that I didn't do my ice bath. So I think it kind of just goes to show straight up. I don't know, you can still get sick if you do ice baths, but I was like, you know what? I actually didn't do the ice bath the days that I got sick. It's kind of interesting
Yeah.
because I know you mentioned earlier it helps build, some type of your immune system, right?
Yeah. So here's another thing I wanted to touch on specifically is there are articles on one site that says it does all of these things. And then you know what happens in science? They have to go and debunk all that to make sure that it can be known as fact.
Yeah.
So there's been studies that say it can boost your immune system. There's been studies that show it can help with fat loss. It can help with like endometriosis. It can help with all these other things. But then there's those studies that say it only helps like in 3% of the study. So we're not going to say that it can do that. That's why there's the word can. It doesn't say it will, but that's why it says can. So yes, it can help with immunity. The word that they've used in studies is it says it can enhance immunity. And I feel like it has because when we were ice bathing last year, I also noticed like my allergies didn't affect me as bad, which was weird. I don't know if that's tied in with immunity, but like in the spring and the summer, my allergies didn't affect me as much. And then this year, like I said, I've only been sick once. And the one time I was sick, it was like that really awful sickness that everybody had.
Yeah, a lot of people had that. A lot of people did. I don't know, there's conspiracies with the fog that something was in the fog, but I don't know.
So we didn't have any fog because I paid attention to that. We
Oh,
didn't have any fog in Ephraim, where I live, but I know a lot of like there's also conspiracy with like chemtrails and things. And I noticed that they had sprayed a ton in our air, like we just saw it. And so I was like, I don't know. I don't know. There may be something to this. Like, I know correlation is not causation. I'm just saying that I was totally fine. And then I absolutely wasn't for like 3 straight weeks. And I was miserable. And so were my kids. Oh my goodness.
wow, I bet. You know how you just mentioned the studies?
Yes.
I'm reading this book, and I guess it probably applies more to the food industry. But you know how there's like so many studies like don't eat red meat's bad, or like
Oh my goodness. Yes.
sugar causes obesity, or sugar's good, sugar's bad. Do you want to know something really interesting?
Yes.
You ever thought about who pays for those studies? So
All the time.
yeah, like I never really thought about it, but I'm reading this really interesting book about this medical doctor who finally, left the medical like industry and like I don't know, she went down a rabbit hole. It's called Good Energy, great book, and she made that point. Like all these studies, not all, but like most of them, some companies will like the food companies will pay for these studies and word them in a certain way, and it affects like what kids eat at school. It affects,
Hmm.
everything, but I didn't. It's really interesting to think about with all these studies going around, like who pays for them, and like, of course, they're
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. And I agree with that. I'm a certified personal trainer and I'm a certified nutritionist. So I think about this all the time. One of the sources that I really love to go to, I think he's very unbiased. He's kind of a jerk, but his name is Dr. Lane Norton. And he talks a lot about this a lot. He's like, look at what the studies say. And in general, the majority of the population does not actually know how to read an actual scientific study. They read the abstract at the beginning of it and like that's it. Dr. Lane Norton actually has done the studies. He knows how to read them. He explains them, but he says if you're going to be reading studies, look at how to read a study first and then look at who is putting it on. And like what are they funding? Another thing that's interesting to pay attention to is I'm not talking to like go Liver King style, but look at what we've lived off of for years. Look at the healthiest people in the world and what are they eating? There's a huge demonization of carbohydrates right now. There's a huge demonization of red meat right now. But what are those countries eating? They're eating a lot of rice, they're eating a lot of vegetables, they're eating red meat. Another big thing that they're eating is they're eating fish. So if you kind of just go back to the basics and stick with those, you're going to be better off than if you're just buying all the processed food with all of the junk ingredients in it. Another thing to pay attention to is as Latter-day Saints, we can look at what the word of wisdom tells us. To me, the biggest thing that stands out is everything in moderation. And that can help you not overconsume sugar. That can help you not overconsume, eggs or red meat or carbs or whatever it is. Because if we're talking like specifically fat gain or fat loss, which ice bathing can help with, it's an overconsumption of something your body doesn't need, and that's what leads to the damage is it's an overabundance of something your body just doesn't need because you can look at the world's healthiest athletes, you can look at Olympic athletes, and they'll tell you, yeah, in the off season I'll have a diet soda or I'll have a regular soda or I eat Oreos or I eat at McDonald's every once in a while, but they're not solely living off of those things, so it's everything in moderation.
I love that. That's a really good point, to be honest. In moderation, right? Like we should eat meat, but I mean, we need to mix some veggies in there, to be honest. We need to put some fish in there. And
Yes.
I don't know, I had a really interesting conversation actually with my doctor, and I don't know, I was actually born with high cholesterol. Like my dad's side has really high cholesterol, and I mean, I'm a bow hunter. My name's Hunter. Like I love hunting and eating a bunch of meat, you know? Um, but I don't know, my cholesterol was getting super high and high and higher, so I really have to be very intentional now to, I don't know, mixing fish in the diet, not
Hmm.
eating chicken, a lot of vegetables like beans. And it's been like that for this past month. And I don't know, it's been kind of fun. It's been refreshing to, mix in vegetables and
Yes.
it just feels good. It feels good. It's
We've
like,
been doing the same thing. My husband, when he turned 30, he started having like heart issues, and we're not 100% certain where they've come from. But what we've started doing recently is we've started focusing on like just adding more vegetables to our meals. And so like because we lift weights, we want to have a big focus on protein and we want to have a big focus on carbohydrates. And so out of convenience, we were looking at like what is the quickest way to get those things in our bodies. And so we would eat a lot of steak and we would eat a lot of like white rice. We'd eat a lot of brown rice, a lot of quinoa and like bread, like sourdough and things. And my husband is just like, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it. He's like, it just feels heavy on me. So I was like, okay, well, let's look at a couple of different things. And I was like, well, what do you think of the Mediterranean style diet where they have a huge focus on like vegetables and oil and like healthy fats and things? And then they do fish and chicken and like white meat and like red meat in moderation, like the word of wisdom says to do. And he's like, yeah, let's give it a go. And we've been doing it for the last 2 weeks, like super consistently. And we feel incredible. Like, and it's so, so simple. It's literally like our breakfast looks like spinach, mushrooms, onions, and tomatoes for our vegetables. And then we'll have sourdough toast and we'll have like some kind of meat. This week we've been doing elk steak. And then for dinner, we'll do pretty much the same thing by having like a huge portion of vegetables, and then we'll do like a salmon or a tilapia, I don't know how you pronounce it, like in the evenings. And we've noticed a big difference like in our brain function, in our just like our energy levels. Like we feel way better. And it wasn't that we were eating bad before, it's just we're eating better. And I think that's what we're trying to teach our children too, is you want to look at food as good, better, best. You don't want to look at food as good or bad because there's no like moral compass to food. A donut is not going to lead you down like a path of darkness. It's literally just a donut and it's delicious and it has a lot of sugars. But if you teach your kids and you teach yourself, like, okay, I can use this donut as a way to fuel my workout later. And then make sure you're eating other things as well to be able to sustain your energy. That way you're not suffering the sugar crash in like an hour or whatever.
no, yeah, it's a great point. And it's kind of funny because me and my wife were going through the same thing. Like we're preparing to have hopefully our first child, and um, we're doing the exact same thing. Like yesterday, for the first time ever, I made a soup. I've never made a soup before, and like I use like bone broth, like just real raw
Yes.
potatoes, carrots,
Yes.
and I want to. This is something that's changed my life, and it has been almost 1 month, not even 1 month. I'm serious. Have you heard of the app Yuka?
I love that app.
Okay.
Love that app. Dude,
Okay.
I've been using it forever. That one and Think Dirty. There's two of them.
Okay, I'm gonna write that one again. Okay,
So it's
so
called Think Dirty.
okay, Yuka. It's honestly so.
Yes.
You've probably had it for so long that I don't know if it's still fun for you, but for me, it's new. Like just scanning everything.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so for example, like I think we're doing a similar thing. I'm tweaking my diet. So I started eating cottage cheese, right? And I'm like, I'm getting creative. I'm like, okay, instead of using ranch, because ranch didn't score that good, like how can I kind of eat a salad? So I started doing like a handful of kale with a handful of spinach, like throw some cottage cheese on it and like blueberries or like a fruit.
Yes.
And
Yes.
first of all, it's a hack. Use cottage cheese for dressing, bro. Crazy. But I was like, I want to be the healthiest and best version of myself. Now, I was like, this cottage cheese, some random brand from Albertsons, I'm like, it looked like it was the healthiest brand. And I scanned it and only got like a 48. And 48 isn't that, or a 38. Like, that's not that bad for Yuka.
Because
But
it's on a scale of 100, right? For like your listeners who don't know, it's on a scale of 100.
scale of 100, and it's really strict. Like, it's super strict.
Hmm.
Um, and anyway, I was like, what's the best brand of the cottage cheese? And it turns out from my location, what they have, it's Daisy. Daisy was like a 78 or an 80, which I didn't really think. I thought Daisy, it's so popular, wouldn't be that healthy. But I was like, dang, out of all the cottage cheeses, that so far is the healthiest one I found, besides the one at like Trader Joe's. But you
So
could,
I think the thing you have to be careful with that is you have to look at the reasoning for why they're giving such a low score. Because on things that I've experienced, it can be, oh, the fat content is really high, but it's the good kind of fats for you, but they're not taking that into account. Or it's really, really high in sugar, but the rest of the ingredients are like natural, normal. It's not a huge list this long of all these additives and things compared to there will be one where it has less sugar, but it has more additives in it. And it's like, oh, you really have to pay attention to why it's giving you that score and then just kind of make your own personal decision on that. For me and my husband, where we're not trying specifically to lose weight, we're really focusing more on fueling our bodies for our workouts and to be able to keep running up with our kids and stuff. We don't care about a little bit of extra fat content or a little bit of extra sugar content. That's just like our very own personal experience. So you do have to look at why they're giving it a bad score and then just kind of make your own personal judgment from there.
yeah, like sometimes it can be perfectly healthy, but the fact that it has a lot of fats, like you said, like I don't know, something like avocado or like all
Yes.
that could maybe score bad, but then again, it's like a perfect food. But I totally
Yeah,
get
exactly.
I've
Yeah.
learned that too. I learned that too because at first I'm like, what the heck? Or it's just like a high calorie food, but it's a good food. Sometimes
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah. The one with Think Dirty. Think Dirty is for like household products. It's for like hair care, skin care, like lotion, or you can even use it on like laundry detergent and things. And it's a way to help you not be paranoid about things, but it's a way to help you be just a little less toxic in your day-to-day living. And it's kind of crazy to think about like I didn't think about like what shampoo I was putting on my hair, but your skin is actually your biggest organ in your body. It absorbs so much. It also helps expel a lot of things. So like a lot of toxins in your body are expelled through your poop, your sweat, and your urine. And if it's not being expelled through that, it's actually going to start coming out through your pores and the skin on your face and on your back. And it also is a contributor of body odor. So if you're eating a really crap diet, you're gonna smell really bad. If you're eating a more clean diet, your BO is actually not going to be as bad. So another thing to look into is use Think Dirty on your deodorant and see what it says.
Yeah, we did that. We literally just swapped out all of our cleaning supplies, deodorant
Yes.
for my wife, like
Yep.
the stuff like girls use. But for example, we thought the brand Naive deodorant was
Oh,
good, but it was bad
no.
using it.
Yes.
So we just switched to, I don't know, whatever is a good score. I don't remember the name of it, but
Right.
it feels good to be healthy. It feels good to just, like you said, get all the most toxins out of your house, even the cleaning supplies. Like, it's really interesting. Some of the stuff we had was like Amazon soap, and it literally scored 0 out of 100.
Whoa.
And what this is the biggest like humbling thing for me that made me quit. The only energy drinks I drink are Jocos because they're the highest score.
Okay.
They're like a 70. And what really humbled me was I was using this drink mix for a minute. It was like Mio, and I scored it.
Yeah.
and it was like a zero, like a one.
Oh wow. That makes me worry. So I'm a big fan of Bucked Up. It's a Utah supplement company. Have you heard of them?
Of course, yeah, I love their pre-workout. I want to scan it.
Yes. I know. I'm like maybe I should go scan their stuff, but I haven't been drinking energy drinks for my SIPS challenge. That's like the thing I gave up. I gave up drinking soda and I gave up drinking energy drinks because I 100% was addicted to them. The first 3 weeks of my challenge when I gave it up, I had the worst caffeine withdrawals. Like my headaches were terrible. I was cranky and I was like, this is not okay. Again, with the word of wisdom, because it says to avoid addicting substances. And in Utah, we have such a soda problem because, like, Mormons don't drink alcohol and things like that. So what do we turn to? We turn to super sugary, cream-filled sodas. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't have the Red Bull. I can't have the Bucked Up. I can't have the Monsters. Can't have any of it. I got to get rid of it. But that makes me want to scan Bucked Up's products and see what the Yuka app says about it. Because when I met the owners at their warehouse sale a couple years ago, and I was a huge Alani Nutrition fan at the time. I loved the way their stuff tasted. I liked the way it made me feel. And I sat down with his name is Jeff Gardner, and he's like, okay, this is where my company ranks compared to their company. Here are the ingredients in my company stuff. Here are the ingredients in our different competitors' things. And they are one of the cleanest brands on the market right now. And they actually just released an even cleaner supplement. They instead of using oh, what sugar did they use? It wasn't aspartame, but they used a different sweetener in it. Well, they switched it to stevia, and so they came out with like a whole new clean line recently. But I remember I listened to every podcast I could get my hands on, every YouTube video of these people, because I was also pregnant at the time. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to be putting this into my body, I have to know everything that's in it for the sake of me and for the sake of my baby. And these guys, when they very first started out with their company, they didn't just go to like supplement expos to see what the hottest supplements were. They went to like ingredient expos to figure out what the best ingredients were to be able to put into their supplements. Like these guys truly, truly care about the health of the individual on top of building a business and selling products and things like that.
That's
So
awesome.
I really like them. Bucked Up is like pretty much the only supplements we use for everything.
That's amazing. I actually used Bucked Up for like a multivitamin, and
Yeah.
I used it for a while and I felt amazing. And then I switched up just because I didn't have it at the store and I didn't really feel
Hmm.
the benefits from this other one. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like out of all of them, Bucked Up, I actually really like Bucked Up. I really do. And there's been studies, there hasn't really been studies out that say that pre-workout is like really bad for you. I don't know. I was listening to this doctor talk about it. But I don't know. Obviously, you can overdo it. I'd be curious to see like what exactly is in the pre-workout and everything. But I trust it. I also use their creatine. I like Bucked Up. I feel
I
like
love their creatine. It's so great.
yeah, I like
Love it.
the creatine. Don't they have a special one for like women?
Yeah, so they have a line called Babe for women,
Yeah.
and that's like women specific supplements. And what it is it's supposed to support us specifically with like estrogen and progesterone in their pre-workouts that they have. The caffeine molecule that they use for it is it's like they took caffeine and then they broke it down into their molecules and they took one of those molecules and used that for their caffeine. So it doesn't give you the crash that you normally get after a caffeine crash. Um, I like it. I prefer their BAMF 100 series better because it has less caffeine. Um, but I don't know. I like it better. But they also have it's called Babe Balance and it's got different herbal extracts in there that help support female hormones like around our menstrual cycle. It can help support fertility. It can help hormone imbalances after you're pregnant. And I've been using it for 9 months now, and I feel so much more balanced, to be totally honest with you. I haven't had my blood work done to like show an actual difference, but I've noticed like I'm less snappy with my kids. I'm more patient with them, and I just feel like I don't feel like I'm doing this all day anymore. I feel like I'm like way more mellowed out since taking this.
Wow. I think they do a great job with Bucked Up, with pretty much every product, I want to say.
Oh,
Um,
pretty much every product, yeah. The biggest thing with pre-workout though, when I taught at Snow College, I did a whole lesson on supplements. And the biggest concern with pre-workout is the caffeine portion of it. People get really concerned, like doctors in general get really concerned with the high caffeine intake because of the stress it can put on your heart and on your brain. There's been some scary instances where people will suffer brain bleeds or even aneurysms from extreme amounts of caffeine, but I'm talking like 800 milligrams to 1,000 milligrams. That would be like three or four bucked up energy drinks, or like seven rock stars, because Rockstar has like 150 milligrams of caffeine in them. And I think I think Monster also has 150 milligrams in there. Or that would be like 10 large size Red Bulls. If you had 10 every single day, of course you're going to have health problems. So again, that's where it ties back to everything in moderation.
yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because for me to cut down on caffeine, okay, so I've some days I drink a Jocko, which is like 95. But what I've been doing is these things called Neuro Mints. And I know they're going viral on like the Neurogum. But I don't know, I didn't hop on the train. I've just always like these mints, like they have barely any caffeine in it, but they have theanine in it and like
L-theanine, yeah.
yeah, like B6 and B12. And if you're
Hmm.
struggling with caffeine, anybody listening, like, I don't know, maybe just sometimes your body just needs flavor, right? That's what I feel.
Yes.
You can just give it flavor via, I don't know, like a sugar-free, healthier soda like Zevia, which ranks, I think, in the 60s.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, that's a good one.
yeah, that's what we
There's
do.
also there's this it's a fruit-based soda, so it's like naturally flavored with fruits, but then it's also naturally sweetened with the fruit sugar in it as well. And I think it's called Evolution, and that is so yummy. I'll have to send it to you so you can put it in the show notes. It's super good. I found it in like little mom and pop grocery stores that we have here in our small town.
Ooh, that's cool. You guys have those.
Yeah.
It's cool. We don't have that in Vegas for sure. It's just a bunch of like chains. But I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
in a rabbit hole of like what are they? Georgie's energy drinks. I tried those. Fit Aid is also one of the better ones, but
Oh, yeah.
that one makes me too anxious. But
And that's a big thing too. It really comes down to how your body metabolizes caffeine. Some people metabolize caffeine very, very quickly, and then some people metabolize caffeine very, very slowly. And then you obviously can build up a tolerance to it. So, like when I first started taking pre-workout and when I first started doing energy drinks, I could only handle like half of a small Red Bull can, which is only like 85 milligrams of caffeine. Oh, excuse me. But there was a point where I was drinking like 300 milligrams of caffeine a day between energy drinks and pre-workout. Like it was crazy.
mhm, yeah,
Excuse me.
you're good. Or yerba mate. I drink yerba mate just like it's
Mm.
America, and that actually it's like a 90, 95 on Yuka. Like I don't know, it's just really healthy.
Did
Um,
you serve your mission in a Latin country? Is that how you found about yerba mate?
yeah, that's how I found out about it. That's how I found out
That's
about
cool.
yeah, it's clean. I like it.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's another thing that I think it goes back to is looking at like look at what our ancestors did. Look at what the natives did for like energy and medicine and things like that.
yeah. For us, like of our church, we have to be careful with the yerba stuff because some of it is like I don't know what makes it exactly, but some of it's more tea. Some of it's like green tea type of stuff. So you have to like kind of,
Yeah.
you know, if you're being really strict, like figure out. Some of it actually has marijuana in it. There's some if you have to read the labels because one time I almost bought one and someone was like, no, like that has marijuana in it. I'm like, really? Well, good thing you told me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing with, I think with marijuana, I think the thing that would be concerning would be, would it make you high? Did it have the THC in it? Because if that's making you high, but technically, the general handbook says for like medical marijuana use, you have like a card, a medicinal marijuana card, and then you can't smoke it. So I think like that would be tiptoeing the line. You might want to talk to your bishop about it, get the guidance from your religious leader on that, but I don't know.
I
But
know.
yeah, you're totally right with reading labels because the same thing goes for kombucha. Kombucha is a awesome like yeast carbonated drink, and that's what I realized it was for me was I just craved that carbonation when I quit the energy drinks. And so I would drink, they're called Clear America sparkling waters, and they're sweetened with I think stevia as well. I could be wrong on that, but I just craved the carbonation and I really loved that. So kombucha also has that carbonated aspect, but like you said, some of them have green tea and black tea in them, which as Latter-day Saints we're encouraged to avoid because it's not considered like one of the like quote unquote safe herbal tea strains.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I know there's just some type of yerbas that are technically teas and some that aren't. So I don't know. I don't know that much about tea, but I know there's also a lot of health benefits to different types of teas, which is really interesting. I don't know. I just like to learn about all those types of things. But
Yeah.
there's definitely more of the story though is when you drink stuff with less ingredients, you truly do feel better. It's kind of
Yeah.
scary to look through the labels of Diet Cokes or whatever or Celsius and just read how many ingredients.
Dude, Celsius is not bad. Like, or it is bad. Forgive me. Like, Celsius is one of the worst drinks on the market. They are not good.
Yeah,
But
I
another thing with this is like I feel like people get so caught up in labels that it basically paralyzes them because they're so afraid of, oh, if it's got a really long laundry list, that means it's got all these things. And it's like, do you even know what those things are? Like if you look at the chemical breakdown of an apple, or if you look at the chemical breakdown of a banana, it's a list like 5 inches long. It's huge because it gives everything. So don't be so concerned about like the length of it. I've heard the phrase like, oh, if you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't eat it. And I'm like, that's silly too. Like, just look at what the ingredients are and then go from there. Or another thing that you could do is you could start out by looking for ingredients to avoid, like certain food dyes. Like red 40 is really bad, blue 40 is really bad for you, yellow food dyes are not good for you. And they actually recently just changed those, like in October, I think it's no longer called Red 40. It's something different. I can send it to you, but labels have started to change. And there's actually been actual studies to show that like Red 40 causes irritability in children. It can cause children with autism to have worse days. It can cause children with ADHD to have bigger outbursts and things. So that's another thing you can look at what to avoid versus just start just by reading the ingredient labels. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, that totally makes sense. And we're so blessed to be living in a time with all this technology and get an app, get Yuka or Think Dirty, scan it. If you're still
Yeah,
confused,
so Yuka is for food, and then Think Dirty is for like all your household products.
okay, then use Yuka for food or just do research. Like look up the stuff or what I really suggest is trying to read a health book. Like that's really changed my perspective on things, has inspired me to make changes, reading just books about health and educating yourself.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
But yeah, Stevie, to end this, what call to action or invitation do you have for everybody? For me, so far, it's been like what you said your husband's like philosophy is or something like embrace the suck. I think we need to
Yes,
seek uncomfortable situations. Now, whether that's through ice baths or simply having the discipline to eat a little bit healthier, um, it might be uncomfortable at first, but it's totally worth it. I think this eating healthy concept and the ice bath concept are really similar. That if you can do that, at least be in control of the health area of your life, chances are you're going to feel like you're in control and carry on to other areas. But is there any
yes.
specific call to action you'd have for people listening, Stevie?
I think probably just like do it scared. Just do it scared. Like if you're scared of trying something new because you're afraid of failing, do it anyway. Who cares if you fail? You can always just get back on and try again. And then the more that you get back on the wagon, it's easier to get back on and you stay on longer. So I'm going to say do it scared.
Do it scared. Do it anyway. Just
Yep.
Get in the water. If it's the ice bath, if you don't have an ice bath, do the 30 seconds or more of a cold shower. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, just do it. Just try it. Just try to meal prep for once. Who cares? You don't have to be a chef. We all have to try.
Right. Yes, I agree.
Love it. Do it anyway. So, everybody, thanks for listening to this episode of the Best Of Weekly podcast. Stevie, thanks again for hopping on, sharing your knowledge. We appreciate you. And I hope everybody has a good start to their week.
Thanks, Hunter.